Hi, and welcome to another MIT AWS-OnRamp, where we're looking at how we can move our computations onto the AWS cloud. So today we're going to look at how we might deploy a web server, and we're going to do this by creating on our machine a Docker image. So we're going to write our web server code. In this case, we're going to use Node Express. So we're going to be writing in JavaScript, and we're then going to create a Docker image, and we're going to store that Docker image in the cloud. So we're going to move it up to DockerHub, so we can then get at it in DockerHub. The name happens to be, my name in DockerHub is JRW Tango, and this app is going to be called Express Color, or rather this image is going to be called Express Color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move it from the cloud to machines. We're going to spin up an elastic cloud, so the ECS, with 3 machines. We're going to front those machines with a load balancer, and we're going to use an API gateway to handle requests. So eventually we're going to send HTTP requests, and we're going to address them to the API gateway, and that's going to be passed on to the load balancer and to one of the Docker containers. We're going to run our web server on port 3000, and we'll see how to do that. So I've brought up my command window, and we're going to move ourselves to a directory called EC2 Express. And in this directory, we've got 2 subdirectories. So first, we're going to create the Docker image. So let's see how we do that. So I'm going to move to Express Docker image, and we'll see that we've got a package.json. We've got, this is going to be our web server, and we're using Node, and so we're going to use the Express Node library. So inside Node modules, we're going to have our libraries. And the Docker file is going to tell us how to build our web server. So let's go and look at the code. I'll bring up my Visual Studio. I've got my directory here that I've set up for the CDK. Before we do that, we need to create our Docker image. So let's go look at first Express Web Server. And all of these, I'll put up the GitHub repo address so you can look at these. But basically, we set up Express, we require Express, so we'll do an npm install on Express, and then we set up the routes. So the default route is just going to be response with hello world, and here I've got a route called random that's going to choose a random color and print out my lucky number is whatever the number of the color is. And here I've got another one, lucky, which just sends a lucky number and doesn't change the color. So we'll have a white background for that. And we're listening on port 3000. And then we need to create a Docker file to tell us how to build it. So here we're going to choose a node image. We're going to start from a node image. We're going to create an application directory here and copy package.json into that. So this will be inside our Docker container. And then we're going to run npm install, which is going to carry out the installation as defined in package.json. And here we're copying all the files. So all the files get copied from dot into the container dot. We're going to expose port 3000, and then we're going to run the command npm start, which if we look in package.json, npm start will run node and server.js. So first we can build our image locally, and then we can go and store it in the DockerHub directory. Okay, so let's now build our Docker image. And so now I can do docker build, and I'm going to tag it with a name. And because I need to push it up into DockerHub, I'm going to have to give it my Docker username, which is JRW Tango, and we'll call this Express Color. Okay, and so this is pulling down node and building the image. And we can of course test out the image locally. We can just do a docker run, and I've already done that actually, so I know that this works. Okay, so it's all built. Now what we need to do is we need to log in to Docker. So we do docker username and password. So my login has succeeded. Now I do a docker push JRW Tango. This is the image name. And I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it again. I already pushed it up. But now we've got our image in the cloud, and we're ready to move to the next step. So now we need to define our gateway, a load balancer, and get our Elastic Cloud set up. So let's program that. And you'll see that we're using a number of the libraries. We're using the EC2 library, the ECS, and Elastic Cloud Balancing version 2. Okay, so you just need to know these things, and so we do an npm install on all those, which I've already done, and you can see that they're recognized. Now we build our stack. So this is the default here. We've got that. We need to first put up our virtual private cloud. So here we'll get a new EC2 virtual private cloud network and call it Hello VPC. And now we'll create an ECS cluster. So we define the cluster and we add capacity, default auto scaling group, and we specify the maximum capacity and the instance types. So I'm going to require T2 micros. So those are going to be my EC2 machines. Now we define our service. So we're going to define a hello task definition, EC2 task definition, and we'll just call it hello task definition. We'll now grab our container, a Docker container, and so to our task definition we add a container, give it a name, and then we say where to get the image from. So we're going to get it from DockerHub, and we named it Express Color, and it's stored under my username. So that will pull in the Docker image. We specify the port mappings. We're going to use 3000. And now we define our service that's going to be run on the cluster. Desired count is 3, and the task definition, hello task definition. Now we specify our load balancer, and we've got our virtual private cloud defined and interfacing. I'll scroll along so you can see this. The code will all be on GitHub, and I'll give you the GitHub repo address. So that's our external listener. We'll give it a listener, and here's our target is the hello service, and we'll output our external DNS so we'll know what to hit. Okay, so that's it. Let's go there. We need to go to AWS. So all of those have been installed. And now we're ready to deploy. So npm run build. Okay. CDK diff. Let's see what's going to happen. Looks okay. And we can just do CDK deploy. Okay, I'm going to... Okay, so it looks like it's completed okay. Let's check it out. Okay, so it's deployed. Let's go take a look at it. Okay, let's log in and take a look at the EC2 services. So I wasn't running any machines, but now they've got 3 new ones spun up. And let's take a look at, so here we go, external DNS is this. Okay, so let's hit that. And we've got our hello world. And you remember if we do lucky, and that should get us, yeah, my lucky number is. And if you remember, the other route was we called random. There we go, lucky number is 0. Let's try it again. Now it's 2, now 1. So we've got our web server up and running. That's really good. And now one of the best things about the CDK is we can just tear it all down. So CDK destroy, and it'll get rid of our 3 machines. Okay, so if you remember, we wrote a program on a machine using Node and Express. We created a Docker image locally. We moved that Docker image up to DockerHub, where we called it JRW Tango Express Color. Then we did a deploy of the CDK, and this created an API gateway for us, a load balancer, and we had a maximum of 3 machines, and we saw there were 3 machines spun up. And we deployed the Docker image to a Docker container on each of these 3 machines, and we were exposing port 3000 on those. So thank you very much indeed for listening to this, and I hope you'll come back and hear a little bit more about the MIT AWS OnRamp. Thanks very much. John Williams here at MIT. Bye.